Good Man is Hard to Find by Flannery O'Connor begins with a family discussion about a trip to Florida. The story's characters are gradually introduced as the grandmother, Bailey, his wife, and their children, John Wesley and June Starr. The main character is revealed further in the story to be the grandmother. She lives in the house with her son, Bailey, his wife, and their two children. The grandmother was opposed to taking a trip to Florida because the children had already been there. Additionally, she argued to go elsewhere because a notorious criminal called the Misfit had recently escaped from a federal prison and was fleeing towards Florida. The grandmother informs Bailey, who paid no attention to her, about the escape of the heinous Misfit gang and the impending danger that may arise. The next day, they leave for Florida, and the grandmother's desire to head towards Tennessee is ignored. The grandmother is dressed like a Southern lady, so that anyone who may find her body in a fatal car crash would know that she was a lady. The family stops for lunch along the way and eventually makes their way past a small town called Toomsboro. The grandmother remembers an old plantation from her past and begs to see it. She ignites the children's curiosity by telling them that there is a secret panel at the plantation house. Bailey finally relents to make the stop. The detour leads them down a road where the grandmother's cat lunges out of its carrier basket and lands on Bailey's shoulder. In a panic, Bailey whips the steering wheel, causing the car to crash. At this moment, an unidentified group of men checks to make sure that the family is all right. The grandmother then suddenly recognizes the leader of the group as the Misfit. This very recognition consequently leads to the sequential murder of the entire family, including the grandmother's death. The grandmother experiences an epiphany in her final moments that causes her to reflect on her selfish nature. Ultimately, she redeems herself by putting aside her selfish attitude. Before her death, she reaches out toward the Misfit and calls him her own. The Misfit, startled by her sudden action, stumbles backward and shoots her 3 times. The grandmother dies content that she became a proper woman before it was too late. At this moment, the theological idea of divine grace is illustrated. Divine grace is undeserving mercy awarded to humankind. The grandmother receives this gift through her act of redemption. Theological elements in Christian realism are frequent in works by Flannery O'Connor, author of A Good Man is Hard to Find. As a devout Catholic, she wrote many stories that contain Christian realism that portrays physically and spiritually scarred individuals. She reveals the moral nature of characters engaged in a struggle to escape the grace of God. The grandmother exemplifies this struggle as she uses the guise of a traditional Southern lady to cover up her selfish and manipulative nature. O'Connor cleverly uses the characters with physical and spiritual scars to demonstrate the change that divine grace can offer. Flannery O'Connor writes these stories to teach her readers a lesson. Ultimately, O'Connor writes to encourage revival and redemption through many of her works by indirectly prompting her readers to escape their complacency. After witnessing the effects of her fictional characters' fallen nature, readers can reflect on their own life to find their path to redemption.